Hey, Mad Minions! Today we're going to talk about my D&D world, which coincidentally is the same world as my book, The Castle Blackwood Moors, now available on Amazon. But first, a word from our sponsors. Box of stuff. Is it meat? Is it corn? Is it even food? Nobody knows because it's stuff. Box of stuff. Brought to you by the same people as Container of Crap. Now on with the show. One of the big differences between this world and normal D&D worlds is elves, dwarves, and humans are all there, but they do not get along at all. It's not like in Lord of the Rings where the dwarves and elves hate each other, but they still kind of like get along, and they're still like, oh, and you fight by a friend. Nothing like that. You'll never find them in an adventure party together. So if you're running, when I start a campaign, the players need to choose. Do they want to be all human, all dwarf, or all elf? This comes up in interesting conflicts when if I run like two campaigns at the same time, and one group is all elves and one group is all dwarves, and they kind of try to get to the same objectives at the same time. So I've had games in the past where like a group of dwarves are trying to reconstruct an old dwarven stronghold, and the elves are trying to take over the elven group was trying to take over that land and add it to the elven kingdom. So that brings up a lot of interesting conflict. So another thing that's different is like halflings and gnomes. I noticed over the years, everyone makes fun of like halflings, everyone makes fun of like gnomes because they're short, yada, yada, yada. And so the halflings and gnomes in this world got sick of being the brunt of everyone's jokes. So they called upon dark things from other worlds for power, and they gave them that power. But unfortunately, for halflings, it twisted them into like something dark and horrible, and now like live underground. And they're basically monsters that everyone's afraid of. And gnomes, people don't even talk about gnomes, not even to frighten children, because what happened to the gnomes are like so horrible, people can't even talk about it. Magic is rare, it is dark and powerful, kind of like the old like Conan D20. If you ever read that, and like sorcery, like it's very much taken from that, where like it's powerful. If you cast a spell, you know, it's a powerful thing, but there's a chance that you'll go insane. So it's still kind of D&D spells, but with a dark twist to them. The next thing is healing. So if magic is dark and hurtful, how do players get healing? Because as we know, and this also comes from over the years, over many years of playing role-playing games, nobody wants to be the cleric, or very few people want to be the cleric. Because all you do is like, oh, heal, 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 and that's all you do. So what I did is alcohol heals. So basically, if you drink alcohol, like back in the olden days, you know, barbarians and Vikings, they used to get hurt, so they'd just rub a little alcohol in it, or they'd, you know, drink alcohol and to numb the pain. And so that's what happens here. So it's also a fun mechanic where players have to constantly balance alcohol healing them and getting too drunk to like fight, because there's many times where like players are like fighting in a dungeon and they're like, oh my gosh, I get really hurt. And so they drink alcohol and they rub alcohol into the wounds, and then they pass out. And so what do you do when your main fighter is basically passed out in a dungeon? So it adds a lot of fun, and well, fun for me, not so fun for players, but it's good times. Another thing is the classes, but the classes we will go over in like another video, like altogether, because they're basically the same as like the old basic, like the Moldvay basic classes, but I add like a whole bunch, because there's like stuff like the fighter becomes like a soldier, there's like a pirate, then there's bounty hunters, Obviously, with magic so dangerous, there are witch hunters. So we'll go over that in a whole nother video. Okay, so on to the world. The world is basically broke up into two parts. There's a western section, which goes from like the Great Inner Sea, which separates the two land masses, and it goes all the way to the west, which goes to something called the Shattered Coast. And the Shattered Coast is where the benefactors live, which is a huge faction in my world. And north of them are the Tiantong, which is kind of like a Chinese, Japanese kind of flavored culture. And there's a land of city of giant intelligent spiders and like horse lords and like horse barbarians and a bunch of other stuff, which I won't go into because it's a secret. Shh. And then the eastern part is like where the Castle Blackwood Moors takes place, now available on Amazon. And there's like elves, and there's Landas, which is a land of like knights, and so that's over the overview. But we are going back to the Shattered Coast because that is where this campaign takes place. Okay, so the game premise. Basically, I went to this group and I asked them. I gave them like 4 choices. I mean, you can go to the Midlands, which is where the Castle Blackwood Moors takes place. You could be barbarians. You could do like a city adventure, or you could do an evil adventure. And they chose evil. So basically, off to the Shattered Coast, they were found guilty, and they were like kicked out of the lands of the benefactors, and they were sailed up the coast to like the borderlands, and basically they were kicked off the ship into the water, and they had to survive. And so they start the campaign with basically the clothes on their backs, and as wanted criminals, they have to try to survive. And that's basically it. And I'll have like future videos talking about because we've already played like a few games. So I'll like do a rehash of what's already happened, and I'll actually start filming some of the games so you can kind of see what's going on. But that's probably not till after Spring Festival because everybody's already starting to leave for the holiday. Because if you don't know, Spring Festival in China is like a week-long holiday, but people kind of start leaving sooner because actually trying to leave during the Spring Festival is a nightmare. Because imagine like 1 billion people all trying to like get home for the holidays. It's a disaster. So actually I don't travel during Spring Festival. I stay here and make weird videos. So we'll talk to you again real soon.